Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Genesis, the 13th chapter. And as we saw in the 12th chapter with Abraham's journey, with Lot, right, and his wife and those that were with him into Egypt as to escape the famine that was in Canaan, upon which the Pharaoh then ends up almost taking his wife. The Lord plays Pharaoh, and Pharaoh kicks Abraham out of Egypt. So Abraham returns, Genesis 13:1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, onto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai. So that's where he had originally set up his tent, right? Which is not, once again, it's not some tiny tent. The tents of these times were tents of Bible times, like mini apartments. You know, they were pretty big. Okay, something like this. Right? They had divisions and sections in there, so it was pretty habitable. Okay, wow, look at that. This is a nice one here. Yeah, look at that. You know, so you can set it up in a way where it sounds kind of crazy. Fun in Jerusalem. Whoa. Anyway, you can set it up in a way where it's spacious, you know, and it looks like a place you can dwell in. So back in Genesis 13, so Abram goes back to where he originally set up his tent, onto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord Yahweh, which is to say that he worshipped, probably, you know, made an offering or sacrifice or so on unto the Lord. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. So they had so much cattle and flocks and so on that it started to become a problem, meaning there wasn't even enough space for them to be that close. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. So there started to be some back and forths between, you know, the Abraham's herdmen and Lot's herdmen. At the same time, you had, you know, Canaanites that were also dwelling in the region, in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left, or the left hand, then I will go to the right. And if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. So basically, in order to have peace, why don't we just separate? We have too much wealth to dwell this close together. So you can have the first pick. Whichever part you want to go and dwell in, you go there, and I'll go the other. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. And Zoar, which is this region here, let's see, where did Lot live in the Bible? Hopefully they can show us a map. All right, so so this region here, you have the Jordan, right? And the Jordan goes down to the Dead Sea, and you had the 5 cities. You had Sodom, Gomorrah, Zoar, you know, Admah, and so on and so forth. So the plain, which it was well watered, it had this body of water right next to it. And so Lot sees it, and he's like, oh, this is like good. And that's why I said this is before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So this land was fruitful. It was almost like as fruitful as the original garden. and like the land of Egypt, because they had this body of water flowing through, so they would be able to set up irrigation systems and so on, and be able to have that good flow of water, which is very important. And then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. And the Lord Yahweh said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, Lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward, and southward, and eastward, and westward. So look all about you. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. So all this, and this is what Stephen was talking about in Acts 7, right? All this land that you see, all this, and it must have been huge, right? But all this land is going to be for you and for your seed forever. So now you got to put yourself in Abraham's shoes and start to think like, why is the Lord saying this unto me? I don't even have a child, right? Like my wife is barren. So you're saying you're going to bless me with all this land and my seed. Are you going to give me a child? You know, like you got to, but this is the Lord speaking, right? And the Lord is not making a mistake. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, which is to say that they're going to be innumerable, just as like the sand of the ground or the dust of the earth. So that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. And that's kind of like saying it's impossible to number them. Nobody can go and notice that the Lord didn't even say, cut off, let's say like, I don't know, 5 square feet and count the grain of sand on a beach in that area. You can't even do that. He said the dust of the earth. Nobody can count the dust or every grain on the planet Earth. All right. People, you can't even list all the cities on the planet Earth. A lot of, it's so, and cities are huge. How much more for that? And this is to say that it's impossible. And this is also to emphasize how numerable or how numerous the seed of Abraham would be, or Abram. Arise, walk thou or walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. Then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord Yahweh. And that brings us to the end of the book of Genesis, the 13th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. And until next time, Shalom.